Number one, your memory is a drama queen. Your memory is basically that one friend who tells stories like they were the main character in a blockbuster film, even though they were just sitting in the background with a snack. You think you remember things perfectly. Ha! Think again. It turns out that our memories are more like a montage of exaggerated scenes and fake plot twists. Let's get to the real kicker. False memories. Yeah, those aren't just a thing in soap operas. Turns out, your brain has a talent for creating vivid memories out of nothing. If you've ever been totally convinced you were at an event, only to later find out you weren't, your brain wasn't just pulling a prank on you. It's something called memory distortion, and it happens when your brain combines bits of fact with bits of fiction, sometimes without your permission. In other words, your mind loves to improve reality for you. A little embellishment here, a little tweaking there, and suddenly you're the star of a memory you didn't even star in. It's like the time you could swear you were in the front row at a concert, until you saw the photos and realized you were 3 rows back, holding your phone in front of your face the whole time. But your brain? Oh, it told a different story. It wanted you to feel like a VIP memory. 1, you, 0. But hey, don't feel too bad. Everyone's doing it. In fact, research shows that 40% of us believe in memories that were never even real. And don't even get started on how those fake memories can be so detailed that you'll argue with anyone who tries to tell you otherwise. Essentially, your brain is a little too good at convincing you of a reality that never was. Basically, it's gaslighting you and you're paying it rent. Number 2, the Mandela effect. Collective amnesia. K, time to get weird. Have you ever been absolutely sure that a famous event or fact was a certain way, only to discover the internet and everyone else is like, nah, dude, that never happened? Into the Mandela effect, the phenomenon where large groups of people swear they remember something that never happened. The name comes from the bizarre belief that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s. People distinctly remembered watching his funeral on TV, even though it's not in the history books. Plot twist. He lived until 2013. This isn't just some quirky anecdote. Oh no, this happens all the time. Ever think the Monopoly man had a monocle? He doesn't. In fact, he never did. Or remember the line, mirror, mirror on the wall? Yeah, that's not what the Wicked Queen actually says. She says magic mirror on the wall. But your brain, apparently it's convinced you've been saying mirror, mirror your whole life. Why does this happen? Well, your brain isn't just a collector of facts. It's a lazy, efficient little gremlin that tries to make everything fit. So if it can find a pattern in your memories, it will make up some weird connections to make it all seem more coherent. Sometimes your mind decides that certain details can be replaced with something more familiar or fitting. And sometimes the whole group of you just forget or misremember something together. It's like a collective mental game of telephone. You start with one idea, and by the end, everyone's convinced the story is something totally different. So, the next time you're in an argument about whether you've always had a particular memory, just remember, your brain isn't trying to lie to you. It's just in a group chat with a million other brains, all agreeing to mess with you. Number 3, memory is like an old computer. You know how your phone gets that terrifying? Storage full message after you've loaded it with a zillion random cat memes, screenshots of things you'll never read again, and a decade's worth of selfies. Well, your memory works in a very similar way. The more you store, the harder it becomes to keep track of everything. It's like your brain is running on dial-up internet while trying to process 4K videos. Here's the thing. The more you try to cram into your memory banks, the more it starts losing data. Researchers call this memory decay. And it's exactly like the time your hard drive started acting like it was too cool for school and just forgot to open your documents. The brain isn't some magical vault of perfect recall. It's more like a cluttered attic where you toss things in a corner and tell yourself you'll get to it later. It's no wonder that by the time you're an adult, your brain starts turning off memories it doesn't consider useful. Things like where you left your keys, the color of your high school locker, or which random Tuesday you decided to wear a hideous pair of socks. That's all getting deleted. Plus, Much like a computer with a broken search function, your brain struggles to retrieve certain memories without a little help. Ever had that moment when you're this close to remembering someone's name, but your mind just decides to draw a blank? Your brain is like a not important and moves on to more critical stuff, like remembering where your nearest coffee shop is, or how to check if you're in danger of forgetting the lyrics to your favorite song. So yeah, don't be surprised when you can't remember what you had for breakfast last week, but can vividly recall the exact color of your childhood bedroom walls. Your brain is just an overworked, temperamental machine that's always one breakdown away from losing the plot entirely. Number 4, you're pretty bad at remembering faces. Let's talk about something we all think we're good at: recognizing faces. Oh, you're a pro, right? You've never met a person you couldn't instantly recall whether you've known them for 5 minutes or 5 years. Except, it turns out, you might be terrible at this. I mean horrible. There's an actual condition called prosopagnosia, or face blindness, where people can't recognize faces at all, even those of their closest friends or family. But the crazy part is, everyone has a little bit of this condition. Yeah, even if you're not full-blown face blind, your brain still messes up faces more than you'd like to admit. Here's the kicker. Your brain is way more interested in remembering something that stands out about a person than it is in memorizing their actual face. Think about it. When you meet someone, you're probably thinking about how they talk, what they're wearing, how they smell, unless it's a first date, in which case you're just trying to keep your palms from sweating. Your brain isn't saying, "Oh yeah, that's Carol from HR. She's got those distinctive cheekbones and that little scar above her lip." No, it's saying, "Oh right, she's the one who always eats tuna salad for lunch." And then, when you see Carol again after 2 months of perfectly remembering that she eats tuna salad, you've got no idea if she's still wearing that sweater you remember her in, or worse, if she's even Carol at all. Your brain, not being a fan of useless details, has decided that remembering faces is totally optional and mostly just too much work. As a result, it's always the last thing to pop back into your mind when you run into someone familiar in the grocery store. So when you think you're great at remembering faces, well, you're probably just good at remembering everything else about that person, except their face. Your brain has got a neat trick of sidestepping the most important part of social interaction. Cool, huh? Number 5, the time your brain invented the past. Picture this. You're sitting at a cafe, casually sipping your overpriced latte, and out of nowhere, an old memory hits you like a freight train. You start recounting it to a friend with vivid detail down to the exact shade of your socks and the sound of your mom's laugh in the background. You're practically reliving it. But here's the thing, none of that actually happened. Your brain just went ahead and recreated the entire scene based on bits of real memories mixed with some major creative liberties. This phenomenon is called confabulation, and it's like your brain's very own form of storytelling. When it invents details that seem to fit the narrative of your life, even if they didn't really happen, don't worry, it's not some conspiracy to make you question reality. It's just your brain filling in the gaps when it doesn't have all the information. When something's missing in your memory, your mind doesn't throw up its hands and say, "I don't know." No, it's like, "Well, I think this is what happened," and fills in the rest with whatever makes sense at the time. And when this happens, you can't even tell you're being lied to by your own brain. It's like your memory's version of a Netflix reboot, but way more personal. For example, you might remember a family vacation where your dad made a hilarious joke at the dinner table. But in reality, your dad was never at that dinner table, and the joke was probably told by your uncle, who was wearing a completely different shirt. But your brain, it decided to go for that emotional core and created a narrative that would make the most sense in your personal life movie dot. So yeah, your brain is a sneaky little actor in the drama of your life, filling in the blanks with a little help from its imagination. Who needs actual facts when you can have a good story, right? Number 6, your brain is a bad record keeper. Ever think you remember something so clearly that you'd bet your life on it? No, I definitely saw that movie when I was 8 in the theater. Well, Buckle up, because your memory isn't just unreliable. It's a shoddy record keeper, and it can't be trusted with anything resembling accuracy. When you think your memory is like a reliable VHS tape, it's more like an old, scratched-up CD that keeps skipping. Here's why. Memory isn't a perfect snapshot of reality. It's more like a giant mental game of broken telephone. Each time you recall a memory, you're not playing back a recording. Instead, you're reconstructing the event, and every time you do that, it gets a little distorted. Think of it as a game of Chinese whispers in your head. You thought you saw your friend trip over a chair at a party, but when you recall it, your brain adds some extra flair, like a dramatic slow motion effect or a crowd laughing in the background. But nope, that never happened. Your mind just loves to jazz up the memory to make it more entertaining for you. This reconstruction process means your memories aren't static. They shift, bend, and morph each time you access them. That's why people can't agree on the exact details of shared experiences, like what color the wall was at a party, or what exactly was said during a pivotal moment. One person remembers a moment of triumph, while another recalls a complete disaster. Your mind isn't just a tape recorder. It's a shameless remix artist. And don't even get me started on how your emotions affect this. Emotions have a way of coloring the details of a memory. That fun night you had at the bar, it's now painted with nostalgia and laughter in your mind. But in reality, your friends might have been too drunk to remember what happened, and you were probably the one who spilled nacho cheese all over your lap. But hey, emotions make everything seem rosier, right? Your brain knows that and leans into it. Number 7. Your memory hates time. Have you ever noticed how the farther you get from an event, the more your brain starts to fuzz out the details? Like after a few months or years, all that's left is a blurry, vague outline of what happened, and maybe some emotional residue. Time is like your memory's worst enemy, and it's not even a close race. The further away you get from an event, the less your brain bothers to retain all that extra information. This phenomenon is called temporal decay. And it's exactly what happens when you can't remember what you had for lunch last Tuesday, but you vividly recall your first kiss in 7th grade. Why? Well, because your brain decides that what happened last Tuesday is a lot less important than that dramatic, life-changing first kiss moment. The thing is, your brain's not necessarily playing favorites. It just knows that the passage of time works against it. The farther away an event is, the more likely your mind is to discard the specifics and hang on to the emotional or significant parts of it. And just when you think your memory should be perfect, time gets even sneakier. Ever have that moment where you almost remember a detail, but it keeps slipping away, and then you finally convince yourself that it didn't even happen the way you think it did? That's because your brain is slowly erasing everything except the big highlights. Think of your memory as a movie studio that's in the middle of editing, and the editor just keeps cutting scenes to make everything tighter. The scenes are still there, but they're less like precise recollections and more like fuzzy outlines. So, the next time you can't quite remember where you were 3 years ago on a Friday night, don't blame your brain. Blame time. It's like an eraser, constantly rubbing out the little details you thought you'd keep forever. Number 8. Memory can be hijacked by suggestion. Have you ever had someone tell you about an event from your past, and suddenly you swear you remember it the way they described? Hold up, you don't. Or maybe you do, but that's because your memory has been hijacked by someone else's version of events. Yup, this is a thing, and it's called the misinformation effect. Imagine this. You have a solid memory of walking down the street, minding your own business, when suddenly someone jogs your memory with a detail. Maybe they mention a guy wearing a red shirt. Now, even though you're pretty sure you didn't see anyone in a red shirt, your brain, ever the sucker for a good narrative, decides that detail fits perfectly into the story you're telling yourself about that walk. The next thing you know, your brain is convinced the guy was there, even though that detail never happened. The bizarre part, you won't know it's a lie. Your mind is like a sponge, soaking up suggestions from other people, media, or even your own brain in an attempt to make sense of everything. And the more confident the suggestion is, the more likely your brain is to believe it. You might have been fine remembering your childhood birthday party as this simple event, but suddenly, after someone mentions a clown with a balloon, boom, now that's part of your memory. Even though there was no clown, your brain just took a little detour and decided to play along with the new suggestion. In fact, you're not just remembering things, you're constructing them based on who's feeding you information. Ever been in a group of people who share their versions of a story and suddenly your version changes? It's because your mind loves to fill in gaps and it trusts other people's details just as much as its own. So, congratulations! Your memory's been manipulated without you even realizing it. If that's not terrifying, I don't know what is. Number 9, memory isn't always a friend in crisis. Here's a fun fact. In moments of intense stress or trauma, your memory is less trustworthy, not more. You know that common myth that traumatic events are seared into your memory, like some sort of indelible imprint. It's wrong. In fact, during high-stress situations, your brain can go into total panic mode and actually screw up your memory. It's like your brain becomes that friend who gets a little too emotional and starts telling everyone everything you didn't say. During highly emotional or stressful moments, your body is flooded with adrenaline and your brain gets into survival mode. It's not recording every detail to preserve for later. It's just trying to get you through the crisis alive. And in this state, your brain doesn't care if it gets the details right. It's more interested in getting you out of danger than accurately storing the experience. This means that your recollection of a traumatic event can be distorted or fragmented, filled with holes or misleading details. Your mind takes the emotional essence of the event, but the factual accuracy might be all over the place. That perfectly clear memory you have of running from that scary situation, maybe it's actually just a flash of panic with a few misleading details sprinkled in. That's why eyewitness testimonies often given in high-stress situations are notoriously unreliable. Your mind is terrible at remembering details. When you're under pressure, it's like trying to recall the plot of a movie you watched while doing 100 push-ups. Good luck. Your brain's just too busy freaking out to file away the specifics. So, next time you feel like your mind is doing some weird things with your memories during a stressful situation, just remember, it's not you. It's your brain not doing its job right. Number 10. The glorious power of repetition and how it fools you. Here's the kicker. The more you repeat something, the more convinced you are it's true, even if it isn't. Let's be honest. You've done it. You've told a story so many times that by the time it's come out of your mouth for the 1,000th time, you know every detail so well that it feels like a solid piece of history. You're absolutely sure that it's 100% accurate. Except, oh wait, the more you tell that story, the more your brain molds it to fit your own narrative. It's like those times you just had to remind people about your epic vacation to Paris, the one where you climbed the Eiffel Tower, tripped over a baguette, because who wouldn't, and didn't get caught in a thunderstorm, okay? Maybe that last part was a slight exaggeration. This is called the illusion of truth effect, and it's where repetition tricks your brain into thinking something is more reliable or truthful simply because you've heard it over and over. So, your brain starts believing these repeated truths as solid facts. The more you repeat something, the more real it becomes, even if it never happened that way. Your brain is like a lazy worker who starts trusting the information they've heard the most, because it's easier to remember things that are familiar. You know how you've convinced yourself that you're great at remembering your first day of high school, but the version of events you're recalling is actually an upgraded version of reality. Yeah, that's because you've repeated the heck out of it. The mind loves repeating things, and repetition makes those memories seem more concrete. Unfortunately, what it doesn't realize is that repetition is just a smooth-talking liar that tells you everything you want to hear. Your brain's just sitting there nodding along, saying, yeah, that sounds right. It doesn't care about the truth. It just wants to preserve the story. So, if you feel like your memory of events is a little too perfect after a few it's probably been tricked into fabricating a better version of reality. That's not your memory. That's your brain doing a little too much editing. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.